Hello YouTube, this is DVD Review Studios here, and today I shall be doing a collection video of sorts. Inspired by a comment I got from my recent Q&A video, today we shall be looking at the absolute worst movies in my collection, which I've purposefully gone through and scraped out everything that I consider to be substandard, any B-movies, anything like that. I've purposefully avoided any franchise-related films or sequels. I've gone straight out for the shark films, the low-budget movies, anything of the sort that is considered to be trash. And we shall be looking through it all in this video, and I shall also be comparing my thoughts on these films to the star rating that they will have on IMDb. So I'll put in the bottom corner what these movies actually have as of right now on IMDb in terms of a rating from a public audience. First up we have Laser Blast, which came out back in the late 70s, trying to replicate the sci-fi magic of the likes of Star Wars, surprisingly. And this film is very strange to say the least. It doesn't really have any kind of competent story. You really have to piece things together, where it kind of makes out, just based on the tagline alone, Billy was a kid who got pushed around, then found the power. It's almost as though they're trying to imply that he is bullied and then standing up for himself by using this alien technology that he discovers, which to an extent kind of works in terms of the plot, but it's really not given to you in that way. It's a very strange method of delivery for this story, where it's more about the corruption of the kid that finds the weapon that he shouldn't be using, and the special effects showing his kind of deterioration are really strange. And it's just a very poorly acted film that kind of deceives the audience to an extent. The only redeeming factor of this is the adorable kind of stop-motion aliens that are featured throughout the film. I think a movie about those characters would have been far more rewarding to that degree, but yeah, Laser Blast, definitely not a movie I would recommend. It might be worth skipping through to get a few laughs out of, but beyond that, definitely avoid it. So that is Laser Blast. Next up is Demons in My Head, which is a very uncomfortable movie to sit through. My friend Tim, funnily enough, sent this over to me, along with a couple of other movies I'm going to feature in this video as well, just to, I guess, share the love, share the pain, as it would be. Some of these movies are some of the worst things ever conceived, and this is certainly one of them. In fact, I actually sent him a very brief video of me sitting through this slightly hungover, which probably wasn't the best choice in the world.
You know, you can prepare.
This is fucking horrible. Yeah, this movie is absolutely god-awful, really badly acted. The plot is very strange, with the main character discovering a headset with the ability to transport desired items from another dimension, only with a twist, where the desired items are slightly corrupted. Very horrible characters featured throughout this, nothing really memorable about it at all. If I was to say one good thing about it, the gore effects were pretty decent for practical kind of effects, but beyond that, certainly avoid this one, that's for sure. Next up we have A Sound of Thunder, which is actually a guilty pleasure movie of mine. Despite it having such a low rating, I do genuinely quite like this film. It's a very interesting movie to say the least, about a time travel safari gone wrong, where a set point in time has been set where these human beings keep consistently going back in time to kill a dinosaur, hunt it for sports, where they know the dinosaur is going to die of natural causes anyway. And so they manipulate that point in time only to then accidentally change something in the past. And with a butterfly effect style story that obviously infects the future, affects the evolution of the world, the change of creatures is quite interesting as they see the change around them when they are back in the present, and what adverse effects have actually occurred from them accidentally changing the past. Really imaginative film. I love the CGI creature designs, despite how poor the CGI is throughout the film, but beyond that, it's an interesting movie. I'd recommend giving it at least a skip through, perhaps. It might not be for everybody, but definitely some interesting story quirks, to say the least. We have some more movies sent over by my friend Tim, the first of which is Samurai Zombie, basically a horror zombie B-movie. I've not watched this, but from what I've read, it just seems to be about a fight for survival with a group of humans versus an undead samurai. Likely I will give this a watch at some point, maybe I'll feature it in a future update video perhaps, but yeah, not too much to say on this one there, sadly. Likewise, with the movie Stay Alive, which does actually look pretty interesting. Again, another one that I am very likely to watch. It may have some redeeming qualities, it just seems to be a typical kind of body count horror movie, just incorporating video games into the plot to, I guess, try and be original, maybe. Again, one that I might feature in a future update video. Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2. I've been advised by several close friends not to watch these films. It just looks like a kind of discount Gremlins movie, only now we have toilet goblins. I don't think I'm missing out on anything by not watching this. Next up we have Dinner for Schmuck, starring Steve Carell and Paul Rudd. This is a movie that, to be honest, I probably shouldn't enjoy, but again, I do have as kind of a guilty pleasure film. I've only seen this one time, and I absolutely loved it. It was hilarious all the way through, and that was mainly because of the character of Barry, a very sympathetic role for Steve Carell. And this was very interesting to say the least. It's based on a 90s French comedy which I've been trying to track down for a while, called Les Dîners les Cons, which translates to Dinner of Idiots, which is essentially what this is, where we have a dinner party where the guests are encouraged to bring a +1 that should have some kind of deficiency, and that is sadly exploited, but obviously it's made for comedy, it's done for comedic reasons as kind of I guess a Schadenfreude kind of approach, where it's, purposely exploiting someone. And that was definitely an interesting gripping point for this film, and I think the kind of end message given is kind of humble in the sense of turning that around positively, but yeah, absolutely crazy movie, and I would love to get hold of the original 90s basis that this film was based on at some point. A while ago, I ended up trying to purchase as many Liam Neeson related films as possible, and Chloe was one of them. And this film is very bizarre to say the least. It's essentially, I guess, an excuse for an erotic thriller, maybe, or maybe it's just softcore porn. To be honest, it's just very strange where we have the wife character played by Julianne Moore suspecting her husband, Liam Neeson's character, of cheating on her, and so in a private investigator style way, she hires an escort to try and catch her husband cheating with the escort, only for this to backfire where both characters then end up sleeping with the character of Chloe. Really, really strange movie. It's not one that I plan on rewatching anytime soon, but to my surprise, this is probably the highest rated film I'm going to show in this video. A lot of people seem to really enjoy this. I guess it's kind of scandalous in what it provides, but yeah, I wasn't a big fan of this one. So that's Chloe.
Oh, hi, Mark.
What can be said about The Room that hasn't already been said? This is still one of the most bizarre movies I have ever seen, and one of the most surreal film experiences. I would say this is the product you would expect if you had aliens write a screenplay and direct something and throw it for the masses to see whether or not it would fit in. This is a very strange movie that I've done a deep dive kind of video on, just kind of looking through the plot of the film. You can check that out, I'll put a link on screen so then you can go ahead and watch that if you wish to do so. But this is a very strange movie that I would recommend. It's an experience to say the least. It's very funny for being quite a backward film where it's unintentionally very humorous with the way it's written and directed. And if you are interested, I would definitely recommend this solely to look into the behind the scenes of the film, which is far more interesting than the film in the form of The Disaster Artist, which I picked up the book written by Greg Sestero, who was very heavily involved with this project, and Tom Bissell, and this was a very funny book. It's one of the funniest books I've ever read, documenting the weirdness of the man himself, Tommy Wiseau, along with the production of the movie The Room as a kind of a side plot. It's kind of split in half, going over the production days going on set of The Room itself, along with documenting Tommy Wiseau's very quirky and strange behaviour. And I would definitely recommend reading this. It's a fantastic book. The Disaster Artist movie is also very good. It's definitely not up to standard with the book for obvious reasons, since it just doesn't capture the essence of kind of documenting and writing about someone in kind of almost like a documentary style way, looking at Tommy Wiseau. But this is a very funny book, and if you haven't checked it out, I would highly recommend it, likewise with watching The Room. The worst of the worst involves shark movies. We have Sharktopus, which was hilariously written. It's very childish in its writing. A very cheesy movie with very poor standard gore effects, with the story of a hybrid shark octopus created by the military getting loose And this is for sure one of my favorite guilty pleasure shark movies. It's just absolutely terrible. Terrible writing, bad acting, etc. Ticks all the boxes for what makes a shite shark film, but overall, I think it is pretty funny. I definitely recommend giving it a watch if you're into that kind of thing. Jaws in Japan, also known as Psycho Shark, is probably one of the worst movies I have ever seen. And I confess shame in the fact that I have seen this a total of 3 times in my life. This is a very strange film with a bizarre kind of murder mystery twist, with only about 60 seconds of shark footage towards the very end after its about 1 hour and 10-minute runtime. And of course, with that, I thought for the joke of it, for the sake of it, I'd make my own custom DVD release of it, since the DVD release for this is pretty rare, quite expensive. And I just thought I had to have this in the collection. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen. The Sharknado movies are arguably some of the more iconic B-movie style shark films at the very least, with this natural disaster kind of twist, which ignited and paved the way for things such as Clownnado, Waspnado, Tsunami. Yeah, definitely some of the weirder films, and essentially this is about a hurricane which swarms a lot of sharks over to Los Angeles, and the people of Los Angeles are fighting back against the terrifying shark tornadoes. Very bizarre movie, so much so it spawned several sequels. It has 6 of these movies in total. I only own 3 of them. Sharknado 2, very forgettable. Basically the same thing happening, only now in New York. Likewise with Sharknado 3, the same thing happening yet again, only predominantly in Washington, D.C. The memorable thing about this film was that we had sharks in space by the end. I don't think I'll be picking up the other 3 films. I think 3 of these is more than enough. I'll probably end up getting rid of these at some point, but for the joke, for the humor aspect, it was funny enough for what it was. From the creators of the Sharknado movies, we now have Planet of the Sharks. Another, once again, really bizarre shark-related movie, once again surprisingly utilizing the whole natural disaster kind of thing, with global warming now taken into consideration, where with floods across the world, sharks are now rising up as the superior predator. Really strange movie, and again, one that I probably wouldn't recommend. One that I haven't seen as of yet, and that is Shark in Venice. Probably not missing out on this one. I'd imagine it's pretty self-explanatory. A shark in Venice. There you go. Likewise, I haven't seen Ghost Shark, which, again, looks kind of humorous. I don't really expect much from this at all. Let me know if this is even worth a watch. One that I have seen, which I thought was pretty god-awful, very forgettable, Sand Sharks. Sharks that can now swim in the sand. Again, very bizarre concept for a film, and just a complete waste of time if I'm completely honest. King Kong Lives is a film that I've had in the collection for a very long time, and surprisingly didn't really know anything about it at all until I looked it up recently, and I thought based on the cover art that this was far more recent, and this looked to be like a really strange CGI ape film. Turns out this is from the mid-80s, which I had no idea about. I'm kind of tempted to watch this just out of morbid curiosity, if nothing else. It looks very strange. It looks like something that I'll have either a love or hate kind of relationship with. So maybe I'll feature this in a future video. Who knows? I feel like it was a given that Adam Sandler was going to make some kind of appearance in this video. This is his first ever movie, surprisingly, and it's one of the worst movies I have ever seen. Very difficult to sit through. I've seen this twice, and I certainly regret watching this a second time. Very strange movie set on a ship where we have Adam Sandler's character who wants to aspire to be a comedian. The only problem is he's not very funny, and neither is this film. At least for all the wrong reasons, it has some humorous moments to a laughable degree, but this is certainly not a film I would recommend by any stretch. Same goes for Jack and Jill, which I'm ashamed to own. Honestly, one of the worst films I have ever seen, a very strange comedy. I always think of the South Park episode where Stan is seeing everything for what it is as literal shit, and then he has to drink alcohol to numb himself to that, almost like being in the Matrix and kind of unplugging and replugging.
Adam Sandler's funny.
I think that is the only way this could be funny, just, as high as a kite, doped up on something. Maybe Jack and Jill.
Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe there's something hidden in this film that I must possess, that I must know, that must be in here. Where is it, Adam?
Next up is Rogue, which is a film that I was actually in two minds about whether or not to include this in the video, mainly because I've been trying to look at the absolute worst movies in my collection, but this was one that I actually thought was pretty decent. I watched this ages ago with my friend Dean, aka The Cryptic Cinema, and we both thought this film was okay. It's a decent enough kind of monster movie, I guess you could term it as. Rather than highlighting something like a shark, this time we have a ginormous crocodile. And this was quite a humorous film in that it was kind of a body count kind of horror film, where this ginormous crocodile was picking people off one by one that were stranded on this tiny island waiting for rescue. And obviously the crocodile was incredibly hungry and wanting to kill as many people as possible, really. Yeah, this was overall very well acted to my surprise. Michael Vartan in particular was a notable actor from this, since at the time I was watching the series Alias, and it was good to see him in something other than the show Alias, so I thought that was quite interesting. So that is Rogue, a film that I definitely recommend giving at least one watch. And last up we have the greatest TV show ever made. Of course, I'm being facetious. We have Monster Quest, which is a very strange History Channel style documentary series that, again, my friend Dean and I got into a long time ago. And this was absolutely hilarious at the time. It made for some great background noise, in my honest opinion. Just some of the craziest documentaries with some absolute nutters looking for things that obviously don't exist. And that was kind of what was humorous about it, with how repetitive it was of these people going out of their way to document something that just factually did not exist. The creature encounter segments were absolutely hilarious, where they tried to hypothesize what these creatures really were. And, you know, we have various strange episodes throughout this. A load of ape-related ones. Loch Ness Monster is featured on here. The Mothman. The Curse of the Monkey Man. Various strange kind of fictional creatures, probably made up even for this show, like Birdzilla as an example. Just really strange series that really caught my attention a while ago, with some of the funniest kind of documentary style quirks to it. So that's the best of set, which includes episodes from season 1 and season 4 of the show. And we also have season 2, which has some pretty funny episodes on there. The Black Beast of Exmoor was notable, with some kind of giant panther escaped from a circus or something ridiculous. Ghosts, that's a very simple one. Chupacabra, where I think they actually did find something in that one. Turned out to be like a dead dog under someone's porch, and that automatically made it as a Chupacabra episode. Very strange series, like I said before. And then we also have season 3, set 1. So that's going to do it for my collection overview of the worst movies in my collection. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave me a like down below. Let me know in the comments, what is the worst movie in your collection? By all means, if you have any suggestions for future videos similar to this, I would love to hear them as well in the comments. And for more, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Right.
Are you threatening me?